Good afternoon from the She Shed. My name is Margaret and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in Sligo in Ireland. I've been given a challenge that was to use 3 different pattern papers on the one card. And I had one trial, which was this one. And then I had one that I tried on a video earlier, which only half of the card could be seen, so I'm redoing the video and hopefully you'll be able to see all of the card. So what I'm using today is the Spotlight on Nature stamps and the circle dies. These are beautiful circles with different patterns in them, and they just lift the card a little bit by giving it more interest when you have the different punched designs. The paper I'm using is this set called Full of Life, which I love particularly because of all the beautiful bright colours. And another thing to point out to you is that on each pack of patterned designer series paper that you get, whether it's 6x6 or 12x12, all of the colours used in the papers are all listed on the back. So if you're not sure between the 2 greens, whether it's granny apple green or garden green, you'll get the definite item colour on the back here, so you're able to coordinate, because all of the cardstock and the pattern paper all coordinates together with the inks. So if the paper is granny apple green in the pattern paper, which we have here, the ink is the same and the marker is the same, so you'll know that your greens will all match. Now what I have done to save time on the video is I have already done my card base, which I make cards 5x7 as I like a slightly larger card. So cut my black base, which again I used because black with these bright colours really pops, and I cut the card 10 by 7 inches tall and I scored it at 5. Then I cut my designer series paper down. Now because this has a centre here and it's the 6x6 paper, I took 1/2 inch off each side and then another 1/8 off each side, so that I have a little tiny border of the black just popping each side. So this is 4 7/8 square. And then I cut this piece, which is one of the other colours in the background, which is about 2 inches tall, and it again is 4 7/8 inches in width. So that's 2 pattern papers. And this one then is another pattern paper from the same pattern suite, but all the colours are here. So what I did here was I just cut another little tiny mat, 1/8 inch either side, which means that it's 1/16 of an inch either side. So you just cut the base card 1/8 of an inch slightly bigger, and on the ruler that's 2 little ticks so that you're able to figure it out. So I'm using the Tombow mono glue, and when you're putting this on the back of your card, go to the edge but not quite the edge of the paper, and less is more, because first of all you don't want to have too much that it ends up squishing out the edge, and it doesn't take a whole lot of ink to make the paper stick. As somebody told me once upon a time, you're not hanging a shelf, you're only sticking paper. So I'll just stick down my pattern papers now. Now for anybody that's interested, I'm going to be using the Stampin' Right markers on this card, and these are these markers here. And for the joining offer, which is available until the end of February, if you sign up as a Stampin' Up demonstrator and you spend, you can actually get a free gift of these two full sets of markers. Or if you are already a Stampin' Up member and you order some items to the value of €70 at this moment in time, celebration is on and there are free gifts in connection with that. Free papers, dies, there's even a full set of alphabet dies. So if anybody was interested, give me a shout or contact me on my Stampin' Up page, which is Margaret at stampinup.ie. So there I have my 3 different patterns, and I'm going to use then, I changed up my colorway a little bit. I'm using the orange, which I'm picking up here, and then the white to do my stamping. I'll close my glue while I do the rest of the stamping. Now, when you have the Stampin' Right markers, you have the ability to use the stamps without actually having to have the ink. What I mean by that is you can use your markers to colour in the stamp and then stamp it onto your card or to your focal point, which I'm using here. And all you do is use the felt tip end, the longer soft end. This end here is for writing with, but you use the softer end and you just use the side of the bristles and you colour in just what needs to be coloured, in this case the leaves and the stalks of the flowers, and you colour them in with the side of your marker, and you'll be able to stamp out this, and we'll see it now in a wee second. So there I have all my green on, and I'm just layering plenty on so that there'll be no shortage of colour. And then I'm using the darker of the peachy orangey colours that I'm putting in this card, and I'm just going to colour the flowers. And again, it's just the side of the marker over the stamp. Take your time, because you can add plenty, and then there's a wee trick where you breathe heavily onto the stamp and it actually reactivates the colours, and it helps them to stamp onto your page. So I have plenty of my colours on there, and you just go huff onto it, as a lot of people call it, and then I'm going to stamp this down, and I'm leaving a little gap so that I'll be able to put my sentiment. And there you are, you have your colours and you have your green, and it's all as if you had inked it up, but it makes it a lot easier rather than inking in one colour. Now this is the stamp cleaning mat. All I have on this is water, but all I have to do, because they're watercolour, is wipe it off to keep it clean. So the next thing I'm going to do is taking the second lighter colour of the yellow, and I'm just going to add a few strokes of that in here, just to add a little bit more colour, a little bit more definition into the flowers. And it means you don't have to be a colourist. I'm hoping this is still in screen. You don't have to be a fancy colourist to be able to do this, because you can take then your blender pen, which, even though it looks like the tip of my pen is dirty, when I rub it onto the mat, onto clean paper, it is clean. And I can just drag out the colours of the marker and the colours of the ink that I've already put down, which was again from the marker, and blend it in together, and you get a more blended looking flower without having all the worry of trying to colour in and shade, because the person who designed the stamp has all the shading in with all of the lines already there. So I'm just cleaning off my brush here, and you can just do the same, drag out a little bit of the green if you want to, just to give it a little bit more definition. And there you have your coloured in stamp without much fuss at all, and it looks very professional because the work is all done with the outline by the artist. So again, I'll take my glue and a little squiggle on the back, and I'll put it onto the layering colour. And by using all the colours that are already here in the card, it all is going to coordinate. So I'm going to stick this down because I don't want to put too many foam squares on it, because if you put the card very deep and have loads of layers on it, it's going to cost you more in the post office, and it's dear enough to post a card these days. And I think I've heard it's going up again, so hopefully not. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the sentiment on it. And there's two lovely sentiments here in this stamp set: dear friend and thanks. And I'm just going to go with the thanks, which I already had out here. And I'm going to use the lighter of the two peachy colours in my ink. So just tap it lightly onto your stamp. And I'm going to turn this round and just lightly press down. And there I have the sentiment. And it's always a great idea to close up your stamp set. Otherwise you'll end up with your hand in the middle of it and you've destroyed a card by putting fingerprints all over it in 2 minutes. So what I'm going to do with this one is I am going to add 2 little foam squares on the back, just like this. And I'm going to put them, I'll put the sentiment on here. So I'm just going to grab a small piece of gold twine. And I'll put it through the hole just to give it a little tiny dash of something to lift the card, to add another texture and to add another little bit of interest. So I am putting a loop through there and pull the tails through. And if you have arthritis in your hands, fiddly little ribbons like this can drive you mad, but you get there in the end. And you can always use your tweezers if you can't pull the ribbon through. And there we go, just about. And by pulling it out like that, trimming it off so that the both ends are the same, it just adds a little something to the background. And you put the thanks here, and I'm going to get some little diamantes, which I thought I had out, but of course I haven't. And I'm going to use some of these ones. They have a little bit of a gold, little fleck of gold, like gold leaf inside them. So I'm just going to add a couple of them, and I'll just use the green ones because they're going to go best with what I have here. And I use my pick up tool just to pick up the little green embellishment. And then, as they always say, less is more, and always an odd number is more pleasing to the eye. And there you have the card. And what I did with the other cards was I just got a small piece of 5x7 and cut it down to leave the border, and put the little leaf on the inside, and you leave it blank for the message. So there you go, you have very nice colourful cards, the black helping the colours to pop, and all coordinated because the paper already coordinates, and you've successfully used 3 pattern papers on the one card. So hopefully this will be my first video up on YouTube, and I hope and plan to have more videos going up. And as I'm only new, bear with me, I won't have a weekly one just yet, but eventually I will get in a rhythm and have a certain time and a certain day every week. That won't change, and you'll know where to find me. So this is Stampin' with Margaret from the She Shed. Thank you for joining me today.